story is always brought to you by Vodafone. It has been described as a coup d'etat. The shock removal of the leadership of the NDC minority in parliament has now led to a revolt by a number of NDC MP backbenchers who are tonight challenging the decision and insisting that the party leadership reinstate Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu and Minority Chief Whip Muntaka Mubarak. The two are the main casualties in a reshuffle that blindsided many within the NDC. We are tonight hearing from angry members of the NDC Minority Caucus who have already gone public to challenge the decision. Plus, we're also learning of a massive outpouring of anger on NDC MP platforms, with some warning the newly appointed leaders to turn down the appointments or risk facing an uncooperative NDC MP caucus. More on that fluid developing story, but first, in case you missed it, Kojo Brace is here with a full complement of the newly appointed leaders on the NDC side. Who are they?
So for the minority leader, we have Honorable Dr. Kessia Latiforsen. Deputy minority leader, we have Honorable Kofi Amabua, who is MP for Elembele. The minority whip, Honorable Kwame Agboja. First deputy whip, Honorable Ahmed Ibrahim, and second deputy whip, Honorable Comfort Doyo Gansa. These are the 5-member minority leader proposed, a minority leadership team proposed for the minority caucus in parliament.
Out of the lot, 2 remained and they've been retained. That is Doyo Ganza and also the deputy minority whip who retains his position from the previous leadership. So those are the 2 that remained. The big names gone, Haruna Idrisu and Muntaka Mubarak.
Yep.
But the key question to ask tonight is why? We have been speaking exclusively with the national chairman of the NDC, Johnson Asedun Ketia. He spoke to my colleague Blaise Soga on the Pulse.
Well, there are 2 questions. Why we are taking the decision and why now? And I guess the answer is the same. We started reorganization of our structures to be able to position ourselves to fight election 2024. We started that more than a year ago. We started at the branch level. We've since done elections in about 40,000 branches. And then from there, we proceeded to constituency level. We've done largely with all the constituencies, and then we've done regional elections, and we just completed the national elections. So the next in line is to take a look at our leadership in parliament, and that is what we've just done. So in terms of timing, it is in line with the way we are prosecuting the national reorganization. And in terms of why, it means what it tells you is that the only constant thing in nature is change. And so since the environment is changing, leadership and many other things must change along the new environment.
Let's break down some of the key names we've just went through for you that make up the new leadership. The Dr. Kessia Latiforsen, who is currently the minority spokesperson on finance, who is also the ranking on the finance committee in parliament, is now the minority leader, replacing Haruna Idrisu. The question is, why Dr. Kessia Latiforsen? Johnson Asedun Ketia had this answer.
We know, for instance, that going into election 2024, the economy is going to be the major battleground. And so many of the debates and other discussions will focus on the economy. So we better put your best man in the economy forward. And that is what we've done.
And then the 2 other names on the list. Governs Kwame Agboja, the MP for Adaklu, who is going to be the new minority chief whip. And then the deputy minority leader, Amakofi Boa. What about them? Why were they selected to lead the party at this time in parliament?
And then we also looked at energy, this petroleum and electricity challenges. And so we needed to settle on Kofi Amabua, our former minister, to be the deputy minority leader. And then the other area is infrastructure, and Kwame Ogboja being our man in infrastructure should play a key role. So that generally is what informed the changes.
So he explains now these appointments that have now been made, and we now have clarity on why the people were appointed. And we are now getting a sense from our sources within the minority ranks. They share dissatisfaction with the appointments that has happened tonight. And the backbenchers are not holding back at all. They are going all out to object to what has happened. And we've heard from one of them, Murtala Mohammed, who is a former deputy trades minister and an MP on the NDC side in Parliament, who says the party is wrong because they failed to consult and they had no issues at all with the current leadership, and is simply questioning the democratic principles surrounding the decision that the party executives have done.
Who did they consult? We are practicing a democracy. And this NDC, nobody in NDC is bigger than the NDC. So if the practice, what I know, I was in the 6th Parliament, of course in the 8th Parliament, and I am particularly interested in parliamentary democracy. You know, I'm even in school, and what I do, what I'm working on is on parliamentary systems. So I've gone through the literature in the Ghanaian parliament and in many parliaments in Africa. I have never seen any parliament where a leadership of that parliament, particularly the caucus of the parliament, leadership is imposed on the caucus. What they should have done was to consult us. And all the experiences I have had and what I have gone through and what I read, usually they will propose to parliamentary caucus and the caucus will take a decision. Now, why would you impose leaders on us? The first question is, has anybody in parliament told the party or some members of the national executive that we are dissatisfied with our leadership? They need to tell us. 2, have they consulted, or did they consult the leadership of even the caucus, even those who are taken out? My understanding is that they were not even consulted. Natural justice demands that if you have leadership and you want to change them, call them. Look, for ABCD reason, we think that we want to change you people. They were not consulted. So it looks as if they are being hounded out. And that is why I think that it is not appropriate. And in any case, the timing is completely wrong. This is not the time we should be rocking the boat. This is not the time we should be engaging. As I talk to you now, there are the main issues that Ghanaians are preoccupied with. That debt restructuring, the Auditor General's report, these are of very important issues to the Ghanaian people. Now, we are having these discussions, and boom, leadership have been changed without consulting the parliamentary caucus. I think it is undemocratic. I think that the democratic principles and holding same, it is not limited to any political party. Everybody, including the NDC, must respect that. So in as much as I have tremendous respect for our party leadership, I think that they have gotten it completely wrong.
So that's Murtala Mohammed, first shots fired by him. But he's not alone in this, by the way. We've heard from the former NDC parliamentary leader, who himself was a former leader of the NDC in Parliament, Cletus Avoka. He's still in Parliament. He's already announced that at the end of 2024, he would not seek re-election, but he's there. He's one of the stalwarts of the NDC in the House. He's also gone public tonight, asking Asiru Nketia-led administration to reverse the decision.
It was not anticipated, it was not expected, and it is untimely as at now. Without prejudice, the gentlemen who are now in the helm of affairs, or supposed to be in the helm of affairs, that is Atohesu, and then Faisal, and then Abuja, and then Manuel Bua are gentlemen, are very decent members of parliament. Without prejudice to that, I think that I don't know what informed the national executive of the NDC to do this. Without an iota of consultation with some of us who are seniors in parliament and in the party. NDC will be having primaries in May, 30th of May this year. 5 months or 4 months away, we were having primaries. Those they are moving today might be having to contest primaries in their constituencies. And then I don't know what message we are sending to those constituencies about them. We are going to jeopardize them in their quest to wrest the power from the MPP in December 2024. This is most ill-timed, and it's unstrategic. And then it didn't need to come at this time at all. I would recommend that the National Executive withdraw the letter of change of leadership, and then I'll urge those new leaders to also step down honorably and say that, look, have regard to the interest of the caucus and the party and the country at large. We think that this is not the appropriate time. We appreciate your confidence in us, but we hope that if the old people continue, we can take over in the near future. I think that both from the National Executive, they should take eat a humble pie and withdraw the change.
And we're now getting a bit more insight now on the NDC minority platforms, and this is a heated conversation that we've seen.
Yeah.
We've just heard Cletus Avoka, a former leader on the NDC side, a current sitting member of parliament, go public and say the party must withdraw this particular nomination, and the individuals who have now been also appointed, case like Forcing and others, must also sort of rescind the decision, sort of refuse, reject the appointments and wait for consultation.
Exactly.
We're beginning to see this play out on the platforms as well among the NDC MPs.
Yeah, it's become a common theme among the conversations that are happening on that particular platform. You see that they are disappointed in the fact that the party leadership did not consult them. One person came out with the fact that this was something we discussed in January in 2021 when they wanted to appoint leadership, and we said that the whole thing has to be that we, the minority caucus, and this is something that they are saying on their platform, that the minority caucus has to decide in consultation with the party. But it has been turned on its head where the party now appoint with a consultation of minority. And they even said that in that particular meeting, they asked the leadership to change it for them to have a broader consultation. It was something they were working on. So this thing that is coming out of the moon without any consultation from the caucus makes it a surprise. And if they don't keep it in check, it means that it will become, the practice for the years to come. And you see that somebody will just come in and say that, look, if we accept this to happen, it means that the leadership can just decide to change. The national leadership can decide to change leadership. Exactly. Can decide to change leadership of parliament without recourse to us, and that will not be good for the parliamentary practice. And so,
I get a sense there's a system mobilization of the entire NDC minority caucus to stand their ground.
Yes.
And reject, what they believe to be an imposition of these names on them. In fact, they make the point, though, and I've seen that point also come out, that it is not about Dr. Kesela.
Exactly.
It is not about Agboja. They have no question about their competence to do the job.
No.
But they believe the process that has been used is flawed.
Exactly.
And they are warned, in fact, they believe it's in the interest of Kesela Toforcing, Agboja and others.
And Ama Kofi Boa to say that we reject this, consult the broader group first before we can accept this. So it's like a clarion call they are all placing on the members that, look, you have been appointed, but can you ask them to do the right thing before you accept? If you decide not to accept it, nothing will happen. So, for example, someone will say that, look, the three of you who have been, the five, but we know that two were already there. Can you ask the appointer to say that, come in and consult the broader group before I can accept? Because you're looking at, I want to lead a group that is solidly behind me.
Exactly. Yes.
And so if I don't get the buy-in of the larger group, it means that then you have put me there to do the work, but I will be ineffective because I won't get the support of the larger group. And so they think that the people who can really do the work is the three people who have been the new people who have been brought on. By extension, the five people, to tell the appointer that, look, we accept what you want us to do, but can you consult the larger group before? And that's like a theme running through all the conversations that are happening. Everybody wants them to say that, no, it's good you're appointing us, but consult first before we can accept this.
So this subject of consultation also came up in our exclusive interview that Asiode Getia gave to Blaise Soga on the Pulse. And he was asked the question, did you consult? His answer was straightforward. The party did not need to consult on this one. He explains.
That will be done when they come back. We'll be meeting them. You know, there is the type of consultation that happens immediately after winning elections when nobody is in position and you are setting up. That one, the nature of consultation is different. When you have people in positions and you are considering their removal, the nature of consultation is also different. And so the nature of consultation in a reshuffle or pending a reshuffle is different from the type of consultation you have when there is no minister at all and you are going to consider candidates for ministerial appointments. So we'll be meeting them.
But another question that comes up is this change, the removal of Haruna Idrisu, Muntaka Mubarak, and as we know, James Savage. And by the way, we must clarify. Asirin Ketia gave us that information that James Klucha Veju, who is a deputy minority leader, had indicated that he isn't interested in contesting anymore as a member of parliament, and so he believed, the party then believed, that then he should be removed as a leader. And so you bring somebody in who is interested in staying in parliament, who still have the energy to run the affairs of parliament going into the 2024 elections. But is this removal of Haruna Idrisu and Muntaka Mubarak a verdict on their performance in that role over the last 6 years or so? Well, this is Johnson Sidon Kitia's answer to that when my colleague Blaise Soga put it to him.
And so, but a point that we need to make is that the change has nothing to do with the performance of the leaders at all. What it has a lot to do about is that the environment is changing. And so if you are a football coach and the team you are facing and the game style they are adopting is not in keeping with the players you have put out there, you will do yourself a lot of good.
I was just about going to that point because the description in the media is that there is a revolt in the NDC, a reason for which you're changing the first two men at the forefront in Parliament. Have you spoken to these gentlemen involved, and do you have their blessings?
Yes, we sent a senior person in the party to engage them and let them know that this is the way we are going to handle it. Naturally, it will not be a pleasant news, but at least you need to give them the respect. So we communicated to them before writing the letters to them. And apart from the letter we have written to Mr. Speaker, each of them has been written a special letter acknowledging their contributions whilst they were in the leadership, and then thanking them and assuring them that the change has nothing to do with their competence or otherwise, but it has everything to do with the changing times and the changing field. And so that's about it.
Comparing Haruna Idrisu and your new minority leader, Dr. Kisalato Forson, many believe that in terms of the weight, the charisma and the following they have, you would want to choose Haruna over Kisalato Forson, for instance?
I have indicated to you why we are choosing Kisalato Forson, and I don't think that there's the need to rehash. And there shouldn't be any reason to compare them. We are comparing them on what basis?
How about Muntaka? He's someone who's credited for giving you a good chance in Parliament to control the House. You recall what happened. You were there yourself in the chamber when he captured that sacred ballot for the NDC. Many say you're not rewarding him enough by this very decision to take him off.
That was the need for that term, and he, as a leader, proved equal to the task. There are different sets of needs now, and different sets of talent must come on board. So that's all.
Let's speak to a senior political science lecturer with the University of Ghana Political Science Department, Dr. Asa Asante. Doc, your reaction to this bombshell?
Yes, Evans, good evening and good evening to your listeners. I must say that it's not news to me because in politics changes do come. But except that the recipient of that change always have a problem, which is normal. If you are a student of politics, you are well aware that there is a definition by Harold Laswell that politics is who get what, when, and how. All right. Sometimes you realize that the procedure, they may get it wrong and all that. But at the end of the day, parties look for ultimate interest. And the interest is to win power and form the next government. That is not to say that I sanction a process that is not democratic in nature and all that. If you look at the way some of the MPs in Parliament are grieving and all that, it is proper that they express concern that way, that the democratic ethos processes are followed all the time. But the party also has a business. Its business is repositioning itself and win power. So if you see the changes that they've made, what it tells me as a student of politics first is that they want to reposition themselves and then capture power 2024. If you look at all that they are looking at, they tell you, as you didn't get here, I think in a few minutes told you that, yes, they are putting somebody who has, who is economist and will be able to look at economic issues from more critical issues and all that. That point is worth mentioning here. The research has shown that you cannot win election in this country, whether you are NDC or MPP, without due consideration for the economic issues throughout. So at this point in time, Parliament being the hub of all, democratic forces, you want to believe that you have a leader who understands these things and will be able to articulate them the way it ought to be. So I believe in that justification. And from my own perspective, if you look at it, there is also an ethnic, or regional balance factor in there. If you look at the Council of State of the NDC, chaired by Alhaji Idrisu, that's the North. John Mahama being the former flag bearer, North. Haruna Idrisu being minority leader, North. If you look at Muntaka, Chief Whip, North, and all that. So if it sends a very wrong signal. What about the people from Buta region, Eastern, and the rest of them? Now you have somebody, Amabua, from Western region. You have somebody from Central region, the kingmakers of Ghana electoral politics. You have him there. You have other people, Abuja, Buta region. Then it gives you a very fine blend. And for me, it gives the NDC a national character in terms of the leadership in Parliament. But I am also aware that obviously some of the things that the party felt that did not go down well, this is the time to right the wrongs. Take, for instance, there is no doubt about the fact that Haruna Idrisu and his people have they performed creditably well. You can credit them for the fact that they did their best to be able to get a speaker from their side to lead Parliament. All right. 2, they were able to throw the budget away because it did not meet their expectation and all that. The issue of e-levy, they fought it head on. But one will also look at the issue of, the VAT, that the leadership, some of them came out that, yes, we are going to throw it away. It doesn't sit well with us. On the day of voting, somebody was missing. These are some of the things that send a wrong signal to leadership. And then the party, which is always looking for power, will obviously not sit down.
But Dr. Asante, what about the question of legitimacy? I mean, if you listen to the concerns, Murtala Mohammed, Cletus Avoka, they haven't been consulted. Yet, the newly appointed leaders will be leaders of this NDC minority members who did not have a say in the appointment. Isn't that an issue?
It is an issue. I admitted initially that as a student of democracy, I believe that the procedures, the processes are followed to champion democracy. I always believe in that. That if they did not consult them, it's wrong. Because, take it or leave it, you need consensus to be able to build a solid minority group in Parliament that will prosecute your agenda. That is no doubt. But the party also has a business, and its business is to win power. I mean, inferring from what, Laswell told us, who get what, when, and how. At the end of the day, look at what the MPP did. They ruffle all feathers within the party and all that. That is not to say that I endorse that. But at the end of the day, they positioned the party in a strategic manner so as to win power. Today, as they want power, they bury their differences and they move on. Yeah, that is also part of what political strategy within the political science spectrum.
Okay, and very, very quickly, the timing issue had come up too. Mutalaman, for example, makes the point that, listen, this is the time you have your opponents, the MPP, they're on the ropes. Why do you throw this in now and give them breathing space?
I'm sure there are a lot of information you and I don't have, but the party, I'm sure, might have picked one or two, and they believe that the time is now. Time is of the essence in politics, because a little delay may change the status quo and create all manner of problems for you. So I believe that they have weighed all these options and they believe that the time is now.
I'm grateful. Dr. Asante is a senior political science lecturer at University of Ghana. What do you think? 055-11-11997 Newsnight in a minute.